All right, we just have two last speakers, and I'll remind everybody that this is a webcast meeting. And so with that, I just want to please bring forward the person who really put us on this pathway just a couple years ago, Mr. Lee Scott, our CEO.
Oh, you're reminding me. All right, that's enough. Thank you. All right. Thank you. All right. All right. I know next week I'd die for a standing ovation, but, or even an email, anything. I tell you, you said hopefully everybody learned something. If there's anybody in here who didn't learn something in the last 30 minutes, they're smarter than I would expect. Struvite. So did you read the article about India and the pharmaceutical runoff that's in the river? Is that not incredible that they're saying in the river and people are drinking from the river and the animals are, that all these generic medicines, the antibiotics, the blood pressure medicine, the medicine for liver diseases, all of these things, when they test this river, all of these things exist there. One possibility would just be to bottle that, send it here, and you could have one cure-all for everything. But you know, one of the problems with that, like on the antibiotics, is that with that in that river like that, it actually gives the bacteria or whatever the ability to develop its immunity to those antibiotics. And so it has long-term health implications. And I wonder, we didn't talk about it, but ultimately, one of the things we said, Jeb, very early on, is that we sat down as a group and we said, okay, if you went back, 10 years, what would you wish that we had known then that we didn't? And so if you thought about all these compliance issues and all those things, if you'd have gone back 10 years, you would have spent a lot more time on those, right? And so we said, what is it 10 years from now that people are going to look at us and say that generation of leadership should have been involved in? And what we came out of that with was sustainability. I just have a gut feeling that ultimately when there is that kind of an issue, let's say the India and the river and the water and all the impacts on those communities, that ultimately society will hold you accountable. So forget how you think philosophically and your commitment to the world or other people. Just think from a business standpoint. If you were in the cigarette business years ago and you were selling these cigarettes, would they have ever dreamed that society would hold them accountable and that whole industry would face the challenges they faced? I bet they didn't. I bet you if as the largest seller of these products, that ultimately society is going to hold you accountable if you were able to read the newspaper and read about that and you did nothing. Is Aguanobi here? And you did nothing to go out and find out what are our suppliers doing. Is that our suppliers' factories that are doing those things? And then if they are, lay out a constructive program to eliminate those issues. If you don't do that, I believe society will, down the road at some point, hold you accountable. Whether you believe you're going to be held accountable someday, somewhere else, or by society. So I think it all makes sense. Some of the things all of you will not realize, Elizabeth stands up here, talks about them having an office here and all that, and they've worked with companies in the past. But the truth is they really stepped up when other people were reluctant, were embarrassed about coming even to Bentonville, and we had to have our first secret meeting at, where did we have that? Does anybody remember? Was it the Inn at the Mill? In the basement? And everybody had to come through different doors, and we had to agree we would never divulge who was here and all of that. So Elizabeth and her group, they've done a wonderful job of being supportive of this company and our efforts. I thought my did a really nice job, and the sense I got out of it was building a sense of urgency. You know, there is a change. Monday is going to happen. I mean, you got a new CEO, but it's not just like you have a different name. I mean, you have a new CEO, and my leadership style I've always described as leadership by erosion. You know, I mean, I just keep talking about the same things, and eventually either people relent, and if they are slow enough they don't relent, then they tend to leave. But I just felt like, particularly with the people that report to me, I mean, with the money you pay them, if you got to tell them what to do, we both have a problem. And so just having discussions, and I think there is a need for a greater sense of urgency. I think you can start these things, let them grow, and build this momentum. You know, at first you had a few buyers that would show up, and then you had a few more, and then you had a few more, and a few DMMs, and a few people from marketing and all of that. And then it built that sense of momentum. But we really are, and I think Mike is going to do a wonderful job of it, we really are at the stage where it can't be optional. You really have to participate. So I was sitting here thinking about what you said, which your vocabulary is just wonderful. You know, they asked me to... Stanford asked if I'd come and do a visiting professor thing, and if you're an example, I'm going to have to get a thesaurus. What's that thing called? And improve my. You know, when I give a speech, and they have a speechwriter, and we talk about what I'm going to say, and then he puts nothing in that speech that's over 2 syllables, because he's learned that anything that's 3 or 4 syllables, I struggle to get it out in an understandable manner, but. So I may have to talk to you if I ever do the Stanford thing. It's interesting to be invited to be a visiting professor there, because they sure as heck wouldn't have let me in when I was younger. I guarantee you that. Ronnie Lovelace, where are you? Ronnie is retired. Used to be in charge of merchandising, all these things at Walmart. Was he was one of the 2 or 3 regionals when I started with the company, and. Ronnie, you're going to be so excited, because it sounds to me like polyester is going to come back. And last time I saw you at the golf course, you still had it on, and you're going to be right in style. And I think that's good. So we went on this journey. We're in the middle. We're not in the middle. We're on the start of the journey. Everybody's exactly right. We're just starting. So what's your reaction? I mean, what do you think about it? Has it been... I don't want to use the word successful. Has it been meaningful? Tell me, somebody stand up, some brave soul. And remember, as I was warned, we are being broadcast. We're being webcast. Anybody? Yes. You have to have a microphone, though. I'm sorry. Enlightening. Does it create a sense of pride in you? All right. Anybody else, or anybody in international? Are they hooked up two-way communication? Oh, there's Eduardo Castro Wright. Anybody? Bashful group, isn't it? How about Argentina? Ezekiel?
Yes, Lee, I think is a great journey, the one that we started as a company, and let me tell you that we are very, very proud of that.
What does anybody have an idea of why? Why do you think it has been as positive as it has been? That's the biggest question I have. Why do you think it has had the impact that it's had? Hold it just a second. This is the way we do things. You have to do everything yourself. It's part of sustainability, Bill.
Lee, I think the answer is in 2 important words. Number 1 is the customer, and number 2 is the associate. If it's important to the customer, it has to be important to us. If it's important to our associates, I think it has to be important to us. That answers the question in my mind.
All right. Somebody else stood up. Hold on just a second. And you can't ask the question you got cut off on.
I had that. That question was answered.
Oh, okay.
It's twofold. First of all, mirroring the question over here, I think it's important to me because it's a return to my roots. I spent 20 years in manufacturing, and we swept up the chips on the floor and turned them to a recycling bin, and they returned back as more steel for us to make more airplanes that all of you have flown on over the last 20 years, by the way. As far as why it's so important and why it's been so successful for us doing it, we answered the fundamental question that everybody needed, and that was, how do I do it and do it affordably? We started off with the light bulbs and driving down the cost of those and showing them how they can save money, and we've done that in every sense. We've only done things that made fiscal responsibility or that were the right thing to do.
Yeah, and I think those answers... Oh, Ms. Swanson?
Lee, I believe the reason that it's resonated so much is because it connects to our fundamental value of living to a higher purpose, connecting to something that makes a difference, wanting to be part of something that's more of a legacy, and the ability to leave this world in a better place. And this just resonated with the heart and soul of our associates as well as our customers.
Yeah, I think that's true. One more, Ms. Stuckey.
I'd say, Lee, from our group, to put it more simplistically for us, it isn't nearly as hard as we thought it was going to be. Flat out. We thought it was really going to be hard, and once you get started, it isn't so hard, and then it makes you realize there's a lot more you can do. And that's pretty simply why we're more aggressive about it.
So I think, to me, I think all of those answers are exactly right. It is important. It's important for associates, Tom. It's important for customers. But when I boil it down and say, okay, why has it made such a difference? And you got to go back and remember that, I mean, we had some skeptics, right? And we had more negative press than we had positive, and based on the New York Times article, we still have some people who don't like us. But anyway, it seems to me that the thing that has made this work so well is that it is real. I talked to somebody the other day, and they said, you know, they were talking about the issues they have, and they said they have this wonderful sustainability program, and they do a lot, but it is principally a marketing program. Underneath has some real action. I think what made a difference here is that this is real. And it started with that toy buyer who went out and cut the packaging on the Kid Connection toys. And it was 200 and some containers we didn't have to move. And that was real. And we didn't advertise that. We didn't do anything. We used it internally. But that emboldened the next person, and then the next person. And it is real. And we are not out there, other than in April when we try to sell products that are more sustainable. This isn't about marketing. This is about the things we are committed to. And I think you're right. And it has been in many ways easier than we thought, because who would have thought that we actually were this sloppy? I mean, I was telling the board we're really efficient, you know. And yet we left all of this on the table, and so did our suppliers. And then as we found out that this is real, and as long as we don't take credit, Mike, as long as we don't take credit for what our suppliers are doing and what our associates are doing, as long as we give all the credit away and we actually make a difference, we will be able to perpetuate this. I think it's extraordinary. Did I think in 2005 that when I retired that the number one thing people wanted to talk about was going to be sustainability? I had no idea. And yet if you saw my email box with the number of associates from out in the stores and the clubs and the distribution centers who say, I am so proud to work for this company. Thank you for what you've done. And you know, sustainability is important to me, and I love and have great pride in what this company is doing. You would be shocked at how many of the emails list this thing. And only the newer people have mentioned the share price. But the rest of them mention sustainability. I think it is just awesome. But I agree with Mr. Duke. I think you're coming up, Mike. Don't you? You have some comments? I agree with Mike in that it has to have a greater sense of urgency. It has to have more people involved. It has to have people who understand that this is an extraordinary opportunity to make a difference. You know, is Quinn here? Stephen? He's not here. Because I was thinking as you were talking, and I looked up there, you were talking about the things that are in the products. And I thought, you know, as we get more and more of this mindset, even when we do a picture like this, we will think about, how about that ball? Do we know how that ball is made? And do we really want that ball in a picture? Or could we have a different product in that picture that we know is exactly the way it should be? That container. And while we are going to sell what our customers want, we don't have to sell as much as humanly possible of certain products. We can sell as much as humanly possible of the better products. And those are the choices. As we get all of this integrated, we'll be able to sit here with confidence and know that the items we're featuring, that the pictures we have, that all of it is integrated and all of it builds one level on top of the other, Mike. Right. And I think that is the opportunity. But I thank all of you because, quite honestly, if anything, I underappreciated how much you all could accomplish. And there is, I will tell you, Mike, one piece of advice is never underestimate what Walmart Associates can do when they want to and get their mind and energy behind it, because it is incredible.